Will the Junglers finally end the Phoenix stay in the JPL? It'll be first versus second at Drax All, and this year's JPL Final will be on a Friday. All this and more on this Match Week 37 preview show. Yes, people, welcome back to JPL Fan. It's Easter, which means we're getting closer and closer to the end of the regular season. But before we start with the preview, let's look back briefly on two rescheduled games that were played on Thursday. First up, Cavalier are within 1 point for officially securing a playoff spot after getting by Racing United 3-0 with goals from Gooden, Allen and Jamaica Calvin, while Arnett Gardens failed to gain ground on second place Montego Bay after going down 2-0 at home to Mount Pleasant. Okay, now on to a match that may officially confirm the Phoenix fate. Arnett Gardens versus Vere Phoenix United. Vere Phoenix may still be alive in the competition, but they are barely breathing on life support. They are last in the table and 9 points away from safety with a massive goal difference to make up on their closest rivals. So a trip to Tier 2 is all but assured. But they still can have fun and play spoilers, and with their performance being better in recent weeks and McGee finally looking like the player he was hyped to be, they are a potential banner appeal for any team. Not the greatest news for Arnett Gardens, who have been stumbling their way towards the playoffs and no longer have their fate in their own hands when it comes to cupping that final automatic semi-final spot. Those defensive frailties at the back from last year's team were largely eradicated for the majority of this season, but the last few weeks, they reared their ugly heads again. So the Junglers should not only be looking to win this game, but to also try to get a clean sheet to build back their confidence ahead of the playoffs. Something they managed to do in their previous two meetings against Vere when they won both matches by 2-0. So no one should miss what happens next, as Arnett Gardens will host Vere Phoenix United this Monday night at 7:45 p.m. Mount Pleasant versus Montego Bay United. As I just stated, Arnett destiny is out of their own hands as Montego Bay controls their second spot. And if they win all three of the remaining games, they cannot be caught by the Junglers again this season. The only problem, they will be facing some tough opponents in the final rounds, starting with the runaway league leaders Mount Pleasant this Sunday. The men from St. Anne have been so bored lately that they are now trotting out experimental setups and lineups against their opponents and still finding a way to win their matches. But I doubt they will be taking this match lightly, as this may very well end up being a JPL Final come May, and thus this will be a good dress rehearsal for Mount Pleasant. Or maybe there's nothing to worry about, as Mobay has not beaten Mount Pleasant in 9 games, stretching all the way back to 2019. But I should also add that in their last meeting, Paul Teagot Davis set up his team well to stop Mount Pleasant from playing their usual style, and it frustrated Top of Wimmer's men, so I for one can't wait to see what happens next this time around when Mount Pleasant hosts Mobay at Draxall this Sunday. Molynes versus Dunbeholden. We now shift our focus away from the top of the table to the relegation battle at the other end, as Molynes welcome the visit of Dunbeholden. The Lions are coming off back-to-back defeat to top 6 oppositions, but they could be fairly happy with how they played. Well, maybe they could have been better in attack versus Waterhouse, but without leading goal scorer Stephen Barnett, that attack was never going to be the same. But this weekend, not only should he be back, but also a return to Everettville, where they are only lost once under new coach Alex Thomas, should have them feeling confident in camp. As for Dunbeholden, they have to raise their levels all of a sudden, as they are now in massive danger of relegation after most believe they were safe a couple months ago. They didn't look bad versus Molynes last week, but currently they are not scoring as much and they are leaking goals at the other end. All a recipe for disaster. When Harold Thomas just returned to the club once again, he first made him a difficult team to break down, even switching to playing a back 5. But in the last couple of weeks, they have been far too open, which resulted in their current 10-game winless run. But this is a great opportunity to turn things around and calm the nerves of their rampant fans. So this is a must-win for the team from St. Catherine. It's the same for Molynes, of course, which means this one should be a fun one when they face each other this Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Molynes United versus Racing United. Out of every single team in the world, Racing may have hated their last international break the most. Since their return to league action, they only managed 2 wins in their last 7, including a current 3-game winless run. A run that now sees their top 6 spot out of their control, having now played all their games in hand. They could argue that the gauntlet included majority of the top 6 and will be hoping with their next 2 matches coming against teams fighting relegation, things will turn around soon. That begins with a trip to Jerusalem to take on Molynes United. Molynes gave themselves a massive lifeline with a crucial win in Dunbeholden last week and will know that they will have to fight just as hard in this game to get another win. Getting 2 goals should boost the struggling attackers' confidence, but that clean sheet was equally important. The season series is tied at 1 apiece, so anything can happen when Molynes United host Rescheduled United this Sunday in Jerusalem. Cavalier versus Chapelton Maroons. As stated by me not too long ago, Cavalier was the latest team to inflict damage to Racing's playoff hopes with an impressive 3-0 victory. I have criticized Cavalier often this season for the sleepwalking through majority of their matches, but this latest victory was their most complete performance so far. Maybe we are finally now set to see the real Cavalier as we approach playoffs, which could spell bad news for their next opponents, Chapelton Maroons. The Maroons were sitting pretty just a few weeks ago, but back-to-back losses has brought them back to the danger zone. Coach Vere will be hoping Cavalier will be instilling a heavy rotation for this match, since the Duncan Destroyers do have a date with More Pleasant just a few days after. But Cavalier also needs a point to finalize playoff qualification, so maybe he should just expect Rudolph Speed's best team on Sunday. Regardless, expect a good contest when Cavalier hosts Chapelton Maroons this Monday at 5 p.m. Tivoli Gardens versus Harbourview. That memory of Calvin's 96-minute equalizer will most likely still be haunting the folks over at Harbourview. Those extra 2 points would have put them in a slightly better position in the relegation dogfight, but they need to forget about that second half and instead think about the first. Their plan to soak pressure uncountered worked a charm, and I believe it stands a great chance of working again on their next opponent, Tivoli Gardens. And yes, before you go on and say, well, Molynes, they need a win, shouldn't they be more of the aggressors? Yes, in theory, but Tivoli loves when you have the ball so they can swarm you and take it to start the attack closer to your goal. Also, let's not forget that Tivoli are also fighting for something too, with Waterhouse still ahead of them, and with 2 home games remaining, they know they can't afford to drop points here. Harbourview will also know it won't be easy, as Tivoli has yet to lose at the El Rosiaga complex this season, and their own record against them is horrible after not beating them in 7 matches. I doubt we will see another 6-0 scoreline like the one from November, but I'm expecting fireworks when Tivoli Gardens hosts Harbourview this Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Portmore United versus Waterhouse. Speaking of that battle for the last playoff spot, I'll be honest, I was doubting Waterhouse would be back in 6th position after they fall from that perch a month ago. But massive credit to Marcel Gale and his team, they had to claw their way back with some real dogged performances in recent weeks. Now, being a point ahead of Tivoli and 4 ahead of Racing, they know going into these last 3 remaining matches, they control their own destiny. And they will need that fighting spirit with them on their next road trip to Fernita Park. Portmore got to be the most feared team to play in the division, next to More Pleasant of course, based on their stellar defense. But their attack continues to be a problem, but they may have found the solution by just giving the ball to Ronaldo Robinson just outside the box and tell him to shoot on sight. But all joking aside, I am sure despite securing their playoff spot, Portmore will not be holding back, as they will want their attack full of confidence heading into the postseason. But interesting enough, Portmore has a horrible record versus Waterhouse, failing to beat them in a whopping 11 games, so they should expect a confident Firehouse Nation this Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Okay, that's it for the preview, but before my predictions, here are some local football news. According to sources, the JPL Final is now slated for Friday, May 23rd. The sources also revealed that it was initially set for the Sunday, May 25th, but was moved due to the Reggae Boys slated to play in the Unity Cup on the 27th in England. One other news we got was that this year's playoff will also kick off on May 7th, a mere 3 days after the end of the regular season. And finally, After securing a big clash with the United States on June 3rd, the Reggae Girls will also face another world power on June 29th in Leicester City as England's final fixture before heading to UEFA Women's Euro 2025 in Switzerland later that summer. Okay, that's it for the news. No time for the predictions. Alright, let's look at Arnett versus Vere first. Honestly, this should be an easy, comfortable Arnett Gardens 3, Vere Phoenix United 0. Anything less should be a bit of a worry. More Pleasant versus Montego Bay. Very tough to call. More Pleasant, of course, is our flying, but I feel More Bay have an idea how to play them. Expect a 1-1 draw in this game. Molynes versus Dunbeholden. Dunbeholden looked slightly better in their glass game against Molynes, but playing Molynes in Evertville is not easy. I think Molynes will squeak by 2-1. Molynes United versus Racing. Alright, Molynes going to put out all the stop, but Racing need this win and I still think they're the better team. I expect a 2-0 victory for Racing United. Cavalier versus Chapelton Maroons. As I said, it all depends on which Cavalier shows up, and with a game a couple days after versus More Pleasant, maybe there should be some rotation. I'm thinking Cavalier 1, Chapelton Maroons 1. Alright, Tivoli versus Harbourview. Alright, I actually think this is a very tricky game for both teams. Harbourview I expect to make it tough for Tivoli, but I just don't see them scoring at Edward Seaga Complex. I expect Tivoli Gardens to win this one 1-0. Portmore versus Waterhouse. Hey, last time I predicted a 0-0 and it happened just like that. I'm thinking it will happen again 0-0. But alright guys, that's all I got here from this latest preview show. Thank you all for watching and please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you all up to date on the JPL leading up to the final on, well, May 23rd now. Otherwise, for great JPL content, you're already at the right place, JPL Fun. YouTube, big up yourself.